Hello and welcome to part 2 of How to Play Imperial Elegy. I'm Mike Lorino, the game designer, and I'm here on the Vassal module. If you didn't see part 1, be sure to check that out, unless you already know the basic concepts of the game, in which case it's okay to start here. So in this example of play, what we're going to do is we're going to play through a turn of the game using IE's bot system. And I'm going to be playing the Germans in this scenario, or the Prussians at this point, but it's the Prussian/German player. The turn order in IE, well, for those of you who don't know, IE is a game about the road to World War I. It starts in 1850 and goes to 1920. It simulates things like industrialization, German unification, a bunch of other things. So the Germans, coincidentally, are also the first players in the game, and the turn order is conveniently also right up here in the Vassal module, so it's the Germans, the British, the French, the Austrians, the Russians, and then the Ottomans. The Italians are here for they had older mechanics. They just haven't been removed from the Vassal module yet. They no longer have a hand or anything like that. That's an older mechanic. But they're still in this Vassal module because it's a little bit older. So the Germans are up first. And if we open the German, well, actually, let's go to the sequence of play. So if we go to the sequence of play, we'll start with the prep phase. So we add new cards to the deck. There are no new cards on the first turn. We reshuffle the deck and deal cards. Then each player may optionally discard a card to gain 1 stability. If we go to the bot player aid, we'll see that the bots only will do this if their stability is less than or equal to 2. Every player starts out with stability 3 at the beginning of the campaign scenario, so no bot is going to do this. I'm not going to do this. We move on to the diplomacy phase, where we make deals. Not a lot of deals to make with bots. That's the one downside of playing with bots. Announce deals, and then select a home card. So each power, I'll have to retire to go and draw the second German home card. Each power has 2 home cards. We have Otto von Bismarck for the Germans and German General Staff. Bismarck is essentially your unification card, and then German General Staff is your post-Bismarck card. It gives you a bunch of elite corps and a lot of other good things. It's a very good card. But we're going to take Otto von Bismarck, which is going to allow us to expand quite rapidly. And we'll discard this card. So we'll take that. When you do this for bots, essentially the bots do not select a home card. Instead, what bots do is you're going to shuffle a home card into their card pile. So essentially, you deal out cards to bots, and then they get put into a pile, and then you put the home card into the section of the pile as described here. So the Germans and the Ottomans put it on the top of their deck. The French, Austrians, and Russians shuffle it in, and the UK home card is always on the bottom. The card that you shuffle in is not the home card that they play. When you reveal the home card, you'll follow this sequence to find out which card the bot plays. The bots cheat. That's something that they do. Okay. So, if we look at the other hands, let's go back to solo. We'll see that the British, their home card is already at the bottom. This is the one downside of playing on Vassal. In theory, these would all be in a pile and I wouldn't be able to see them. But in this case, New Artillery is on top, then Sepoy Mutiny, etc., etc. And then the French, we just rolled a die. We rolled a 4, so the French home card is last in their order. All right. I go first. I'm going to start off right away and play my Otto von Bismarck home card because it's very good. But before we do that, sorry, I forgot. We're in the diplomacy phase. The Austrians have a special ability at the start of the first diplomacy phase. If we go to their player aid, we have Metternich's Legacy. At the end of diplomacy phase of turn 1, gain an alliance with 2 minor powers of your choice that do not contain an opponent's diplomatic marker. So we see that they can't place it in Piedmont because that is a French diplomacy marker, and they can't place it in Belgium because that has a British diplomacy marker, or Romania because of the Russian. Now, how we do this with a bot is you could roll a die to randomly determine it, but the better way is to use this diplomatic interest chart. So here we have these are the areas that the Austrians are interested in. So Germany, Italy, and the Balkans. So if we roll a die, we rolled a 2, so they want to place this in Germany, which is bad for us, actually, as the Prussian player. So now we have 3 German minor powers they can place it in. Hanover, Saxony, or Bavaria. We'll roll a die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4. So they're going to place an ally in Saxony. They do not want us expanding through Saxony. Sometimes the bots make dumb decisions, and other times they make very frustrating decisions. For the record, we're playing against normal difficulty bots. I'll explain that more later. Okay, so let's roll a second die for their second one. They're going to place this one in Italy, so we have Piedmont or Naples. They could place it in Rome or Tuscany, but bots will prioritize making the best decision, essentially. So they can't place it in Piedmont because the French have a diplomacy marker there. So the only option they really have is Naples, and they already have an army there. And bots, yeah, the bots will place it in Naples because Naples already has an army. Even if it's a reduced army, they'll place it there. Okay, so that's the end of that. The Austrians have an ally with Naples and Saxony. And let's move over to me and the Germans. So, I'm going to play Otto von Bismarck, like I said. Now, Bismarck is an interesting card. Essentially, what he allows you to do is to declare war and then prevent other players from joining that war. Okay, so if I declare war hypothetically on Hanover, without Otto von Bismarck, players would be able to join this war in a priority order. So let's say I declared war normally without Bismarck. If I declare war on Hanover, you can only declare war on one thing normally. If we go to charts, so if we go to this chart on the wartime actions, we'll see the minor power alliance table. So we'll see here that Hanover is a German state, and when you attack a German state, if they don't have an ally, they will ask someone for help, and they'll go with their first choice first. So the German state would ask either GE or Austria. Normally we would roll off, but since I'm attacking them, they would ask Austria. But because I'm playing Otto von Bismarck, no major powers can join this war, which is important. There's a clarification. So let's read through the whole thing. First, we gain 1 stability. Huzzah. Stability. Wrong tab. Huzzah. Increased stability. Okay. Next, we declare war of unification using this card's CP value. You may target 2 different powers with this card. So I'm actually also going to target Denmark as well in Schleswig-Holstein. Now, this German flag at the bottom indicates that those are German unification spaces. If I take all 10 German unification spaces, I start with 5. I don't start with Bavaria, Saxony, Hanover, Schleswig-Holstein, or Alsace-Lorraine. But if I take 10 of them, I unify Germany, which is a very big bonus and actually one of my objectives over the course of the game. But because I play Bismarck, I can target 2 things. During the alliance step, you may choose to allow neither side to imply player allies. Minor power allies may still join. Additionally, if you win this war, you may select the territorial cession option for free. So essentially, what this allows the Germans to do is to attack people and have no major powers jump in. Now, there's a clarification at the bottom that reads as follows. Declaring war on a minor power still counts as with a player ally, still counts as declaring war on that player. This event can prevent that player from calling their player allies, but the defending player will still have the option to aid the minor power. So if we were to attack Saxony, we can't use this card to prevent the Austrians from joining because attacking a minor power with a player ally is treated as attacking that player. So we don't want to pull the Austrians into this. We want an easy win. So we're going to target Hanover and Schleswig-Holstein. Austria doesn't have any allies that they could call in, but either way, they have more armies than us. We don't want to fight them. So we'll discard this card. We'll go to our charts and we'll go to wartime. And what we're going to see is when we go through the steps, the first thing we have to do is choose a war aim. So our war aim is going to be unification. We can't do liberation because they don't have anything that we already owned and they're not rebelling. And we don't want to do conquest because that costs stability, which is bad. So we're going to do unification. Basically, this is something only the Germans and Austrians can do, although the Austrians can do it in rare circumstances. Or if you're doing an Italian war of unification, you can also do it that way. But anyway, so we're going to target both of these. And because we're doing a war of unification, we can target up to 2 spaces, and we can do 2 different powers because of Otto von Bismarck. The defender will never surrender if they're only minor powers, and they can't play cards into their war budget because they're only minor powers. We can basically skip the alliance step. I'm not inviting anybody. They're not inviting anybody. In the initiative and budget step, We're going to go first. And we go first because we played the higher value card. Of course, they didn't play a high value card, so there's that. There are tiebreakers, although Germany wins all ties. That's one of their special abilities for going first in initiative. It's one of their special abilities called Bewegungskrieg. Okay. Then we set our war budget, which is the CP we played plus our industry level. So if we go to our player display, our industry is 1. We played a 3 CP card. Our war budget, which you can put on any track, is 4. Okay. So then we move into the maneuver step where we basically take 1 CP worth of actions. Now, I'm going to be going only because the bot can't go. So one of the German special abilities is superior staff work. During their first impulse of the war, you may conduct 1 free deploy reserves action. So for free, I can take the 6th Army out of reserve and deploy it into Berlin. When you take a deploy reserves action, that normally costs a CP, but we get a free one. And we can deploy armies equal to half of our industry, and i.e. you always round up, so half of 1 is 1. And we could deploy 1, and we deploy them into a space we control. We deploy them into Berlin. There we go. Then for our first action, and we'll decrease our war budget by 1. For our first action, we will march, which allows us to move all our armies 2 spaces, or 1 space versus via difficult or severe connections. So the 2nd Army can go 1, 2 into Berlin. Now, if I was fighting another player, or in this case a bot, the bot would have a chance to go, but I'm not, so we can skip their turn, and it's back to me. I'm going to take the land battle action, which is to launch an attack. So we'll decrease our war budget by another 1, and we will declare a land battle in... Can we rotate this? Flip finger at Hanover. Huzzah. So let's go through the math. Each one of our armies gives us 2 strength. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We also have an elite corps, which gives us +1 strength. So we're at a total of +7. If we check our hand, we don't have any combat cards, so we're not playing anything there. Okay. What are the Hanoverians and Danish stats? So the Hanoverians have a strength of 1 because their army is reduced. However, if we check our modifiers down here in combat, we'll see that they only have reduced armies, so they're going to be -1. So they're actually at 0. However, the Danes can support, if we go down to the support summary here. So a max of 2 spaces can support, and there are different modifiers for supporting. The important one here is that the Danes are supporting a different power. So they don't coordinate well, they don't have the same commanders, so the Danish support is actually halved. So here we have 1 support coming in from the Danes. So this is a 7 total to 1. So we take the differential. I'm going to have a +6 modifier. This war is probably going to be a cakewalk, but let's see what the rolls are. I'll start with my roll first. I get a +6. That goes to a 10, which is exactly what I needed. Doesn't matter what they roll. They do roll a 4. I beat him by 6. The attacker won by greater than or equal to 4. The defender takes 2 losses. We can send you to the end phase build box. We can reduce them for 2 steps. And I can advance. I actually have to advance at least 1 unit. But I'm going to advance, I'll only advance the 1 and the elite corps to demonstrate something. Now, because I won a decisive victory, I can actually immediately attack or move with the armies that I advanced again before the enemy gets to go. So I'm going to launch another attack into Schleswig-Holstein from Hanover. And I'm doing this to show off the support system. So again, I have 1, 2, and then 3 in my main attack. He's only going to have 0. He has 1, but they're all reduced, so he's down to 0. But both my armies in Berlin are going to be able to support. Why? So if the supporting armies are adjacent to both the attacker and defender, all armies can support. I'm adjacent to both of them, all armies can support. If we were adjacent to only the attacker or the defender, only 1 army could support. So if these 2 armies were down here, for example, only 1 of them could provide support. Okay. Then, adjacent army, red connections you can't support. But we're not the same we are the same power, sorry. So my guys are supporting at full strength. None of the other things apply, so these guys are supporting at their full 4 firepower. So I'm going with 7 to 0, so I'm plus 7. My roll, again, this is going to be a cakewalk. I got a 12 to his 3. So the Danes go back to the build box, my armies march in, and I've taken both of my war aims, so I can really end the war now. In theory, I could spend more points and march into Denmark, but that's not going to get me anything, because you can only capture what you targeted as a war aim. So if we go over to the victory step, we impose treaty options and exchange truces. So we achieved a normal victory. We accomplished our war aims. You can't achieve a major victory over minor powers. We accomplish our war aims and we get 1 treaty option. We're just going to choose territorial cession. We get to gain control of all things we target at the beginning of the war. So we can delete this. We can delete this. We can also delete this. And we place 2 control markers, wrong tab, on to Hanover and 1 on to Schleswig-Holstein. This will increase our territorial keys by 2. 1, 2. Notice it increased our manpower to 3, but we're not going to increase our manpower until the end phase, because that's how you don't increase your manpower in the beginning of the turn. Okay. At the end of the war, we have the demobilization step. We check for blockade. That doesn't apply here. We demobilize. That means all our reserve armies must go back to the reserve armies holding box. Now, normally this elite corps would be eliminated because it doesn't have an army with it now, but you do get a free redeployment action, which allows you, if we go to our sequence of play, redeployment allows us to move all of our land units an unlimited distance. Basically, it's to redeploy your troops at the end of the war. We're just going to pick up him and move him, all of our armies, into Berlin. That was quite a successful war. It's supposed to be a successful war. The Germans start out quite weak. They need some momentum, essentially. All right, and that's my turn. Now, normally, you could pretty easily walk through a shorter war like that and kind of speed through things, but I'm trying to demonstrate how the game works. So we move over to the British player. Now, the British have a home card, which allows them to jump into a war. But their one home card, which if we go over here to our bot player aid, that allows them to jump into a war. Every time a war is declared, if they roll a 1 or they roll a die and a 1 or a 2, they jump in. But they cannot play that card in response to Otto von Bismarck. Bismarck's whole thing is that he politically or diplomatically isolated his opponents. And that is modeled in the card. You can't jump in on a war like that. So that's why we didn't roll. Okay. Over to the British. We reveal the top card of their deck. In this case, it is New Artillery. Now, again, it would be a deck in real life, but in this, it's just that. We go to the bot priority list. I'm going to break this down the first time, but after that, I'm going to roll through it, and you'll see how fast it is. So is this their home card? No. Do they have any rebels to attack? No. Is this an event they always play? We would check the bot box, and if the UK are shown up in the bot box, they would play this event. Notice this card doesn't have a bot box, so they're not playing this event automatically. In fact, bots never play response or combat cards. Okay. Then we industrialize. So bots will industrialize if they have an auto industry marker, which no one does at the start of the game. They'll only industrialize if they have a 1 or 2 CP card. But the British are going to take this card and throw it into their industrialization. That was a first priority thing. If we ran out of priority 1 actions, we would roll for a priority 2 action. Okay? And there are some special things for the bots down here. And that's the whole British activation. Moving over to the French, they reveal their top card, the decline of the Qing. Now notice, let's go through the bot. It's not a home card. They don't have any rebels to attack. This is an event that does have the French symbol on it. Notice the FR in the bot box. They will play this for the event. Place a Qing control marker in a Qing controlled space in China. And then if no players, whatever. So we go over to China, and it looks like the Qing government is starting to fall apart. The French get to place a control marker in China. Now, what space do they choose? We roll a die. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They choose Indochina. What has ever gone wrong with the French going into Vietnam? Not a single thing. The last time they went there, everything went well. So They are going to go into Vietnam, and they control that space. We now jump to the French player aid, and they immediately increase their colonial keys because they now control one. That's a good card for the French. That card is discarded. And then we move over to the Austrians. The Austrians reveal their top card. Now remember, the Austrians shuffled their home card into their deck. So their top card is their home card, which they now reveal. Okay, so the Austrians, if we go to their home card reveal, remember, it's not always the one that is revealed. We see that play Habsburg Dynasty on turn 1, so they're always playing Habsburg Dynasty on turn 1, and use the bot diplomatic influence table on the next plays to choose a target. So if we read this card, we see choose one independent minor power in Europe, remove an opposing player's influence marker if present, gain an alliance with that minor power. Special, if you choose a German minor power, you can actually remove a player's alliance marker. And after playing this card, if they are allied to at least 2 German minor powers, they get a +1 card marker. So ideally, if I were the bot here, I would play this card to ally with Bavaria, but sometimes bots do dumb things, so let's roll the die to see what the Austrian bot does. So we use our bot diplomatic interest table. We roll a 2. They are actually going to place it in Germany. There's only one spot they can place it in Germany, that being Bavaria. So we don't have to roll for that. We just take an ally marker and move it into Bavaria. Now, because the Austrians are now allied to 2 German minor powers, per their card, they actually gain a +1 card marker, which is very good for them. Where are our +1 card markers? +1 card markers. Here we go. Here's a +1 card marker. They don't draw the card immediately. At the start of the next turn, they would get an extra card, and then they would discard all their +1 card markers. Very good event for the Austrians. Moving on to the Russians, they will play Diplomatic Incident. Ooh! So notice, so let's go through again. We check the bot box. Well, they're going to play it for the bot box, but... So actually, so here we have play a card for its event. No rebels to attack. Bot box, they're going to play this for the event. So they're going to target a player and remove an ally marker from a player of their choice. There are currently only 3 ally markers, and they're all Austrian. 1 in Naples, 1 in Bavaria, 1 in Saxony. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which one are they removing? They're removing the ally marker in Naples. The Austrian emperor insulted the king of Naples, and the alliance is broken. Mean play from the Russian bat, and we discard this card. Over to the Ottomans, and you'll see, I hope you're starting to appreciate just how quickly you can go through a turn with the bots. The main goal of the bot system is speed. I don't want you to be taking that much longer on their turns, and yes, sometimes they're going to do dumb things, but they cheat to make up for it. More on that later. So the Ottoman home card is always on the top of their stack, so they're playing modernization. The Ottomans actually cannot industrialize on their own. They need other players' help. So first of all, they gain a stability. So let's increase their stability by 1. Then we will see that another power may give you a card to put into industrialization. That power draws a card, which is important. If you give the Ottomans a card, you get a card back. They must tell you the true CP value of the card they are giving you. If no player gives you a card, you may use this card for 3 CP. So let's roll dice to see if the bots are giving them the card. We'll say, hi, they're giving them a card. They're offering a card. So the Germans, are they offering them a card? No. The British? Yes. The Austrians? No. And the Russians? No. So only the British are offering them a card. Do I want to offer them a card? I like my cards, so I'm not going to do it. The British will offer them a card, and the British will give... So one of the things... Bots will never give OT a 3 CP value card. So you would flip the top card, in this case, Sepoy Mutiny. It is a 2-point card. They would give that to the Ottomans and put that into the Ottomans' industrialization. However, the event triggers. Now, the Ottomans would get to decide if there were any choices in this event. In this case, there aren't. The event goes off, and the Sepoys revolt in India. Bad for the British. So let's read through that full event because that is important. The UK player flips the India stability marker to its unstable side. So if we go to the UK, on its stable side, they get +1 card from India. But on its unstable side, they lose the card, and all of their Indian armies are -1 battle modifier, which is a big deal. That Indian stability marker shouldn't be there, but that's fine. Okay. So we also are going to take a sepoy army, which is in minor armies, and throw them into India. This is a bad event for the British. We also place a War of Independence marker there. Essentially, all this War of Independence marker means is that the British, this space will gain independence basically in 2 turns if the British don't do anything about this. 2 turns, not impulses. The turn is a full hand of cards. So the British have enough time to do this. Now, importantly, though, once India revolts, Britain actually needs to decrease their colonial keys by 2. The reason why they decrease them by 2 is because Crown Jewel, India counts as 2 keys. So until they destroy that sepoy army, they're not going to get that. But we'll notice that destroying rebels is a top priority next to playing your home card. Okay, that's the Ottoman turn. But the British do get to draw a card because they gave the Ottomans a card. So let's switch to them. They will draw rapid mobilization. We'll put this at the bottom of their deck, which actually, sorry. Let's flip this. Well, their home card is always at the bottom, so they'll get that there. Okay. Next we have, back to me. I get to make a decision. Huzzah. I'm going to hold on to Indian Ocean Arms Trade because it's a pretty good card. And instead, I'm going to play Economic Boom for 4 points. There are very few 4-point cards in this game, but Economic Boom is one of them, and it's quite good. And the reason why 4-point cards are good is if we go to our actions here, wrong chart, we'll see that if we want to gain a minor power alliance, but that costs 3, and you need a diplomacy before you do that. So with a 4-point card, you can place a diplomacy marker and an ally marker in the same impulse. So we're going to spend 1 to place 1 diplomacy marker on the Netherlands. Then for 3, we're immediately going to flip that to an ally marker and immediately gain an alliance with the Netherlands. This will give us a nice ally, also gives us halfway to controlling the Low Countries flashpoint, which is a pretty big deal. And that is our turn. Okay. Over to the British. The British will reveal British trade. Notice, let's go through. The British have play home card for its event. Then they have attack and move units to attack rebels. Even though this is a really good card for the British, per the priority, they're actually going to use this to defeat the sepoys. And if we look at the entire British hand, would this make sense? Well, they do have a 3-point card, so that would have been more useful. But bots sometimes do dumb things. This is a great card for the British. It allows them to get both their home cards in a turn. It's a big deal. But the bot priority is to defeat rebels. So if the British attacked right now, they'd actually be at a -1 modifier. Because remember, all Indian armies are at -1. It's not -1 stacking. It's just -1 net because India is unstable. So instead, the British are going to move troops to get to India. But India is far away, you say. That is true. However, the Expeditionary Force action allows you for 1 CP to basically teleport an EF an unlimited distance. So they're going to pick up their EF in South Africa, teleport it to India, and prepare to crush the sepoys next impulse. Shame they didn't get to play that card. Over to the French. The French will reveal new administration. Here we check. It's not their home card. They don't have any rebels. It's not something that the bot will always play. They have not industrialized yet, so the French are going to throw this into industry. You'll find that early on, bots tend to do this a lot. They tend to throw cards into industry quite a bit. Which reminds me, I have to throw a card into industry, and I can't forget about that. The Austrians will reveal reforms of the 1860s. They will not play this card automatically. It's not their home card. They don't have any rebels. Have they industrialized? I don't believe they have. So they're going to throw that 1-point card, which is not a good industrialization card, into industry. Sorry, that's slightly off screen. The reason why it's not a good industrialization card is because you need to roll a 5 to industrialize, and you add the value of the card you played into industrialization. So a 1 is a +1, which means they're industrializing on a 4 up. The Russians and the Ottomans are different. They industrialize on a 6 up, so it's even harder for them. Speaking of the Russians, they're going to play South German Confederation. Now, the Russians already industrialized, I believe. No, they have not. So they're going to play this into, that's right, because they played diplomatic incidents and got rid of the Austrian alliance in Naples. They're going to play this into industry. A great card for the Russians to play into industry turn 1, because the Russians with high industry are really a menace. Okay, that's the Russian turn, or impulse, sorry. Over to the Ottomans, they're going to play Prussian military tradition. So the Ottomans are not going to play this for the event. This is not their home card. They don't have any rebels. So they're just going to, now we're going to move down to our first priority 2 action. They've already industrialized. They also can industrialize normally. So we roll a die to see what they do. They don't have any modifiers, so let's roll. They rolled a 5. So they're actually going to play this card for the event. Man, this card would be great for them to play on a different event. All right, but they'll play this card, which essentially means that for the rest of the game turn, I gain a +1 battle modifier for the rest of the game. Sometimes bots do dumb things. We'll just leave this at the top. For the rest of the turn, not the rest of the game. I misspoke. It's a very good card for the Germans to get. Notice it's also a response card, so you can play this at the start of the German impulse, including a wartime impulse for a super surprise. This represents the proficiency of the Prussian army, especially in the wars of unification. Think of this as the Helmut von Moltke card. Okay. Not the best, that's the most optimal play for the Ottomans, but maybe we cut a deal. That card would have been much better used flipping their armies to full strength, but that's the way it goes. Bots make dumb decisions sometimes. Over to me. I'm going to drop the Concert of Europe into industrialization. This will decrease world tension by 1. World tension starts at 0 and it hasn't moved, so world tension stays at 0. That card has no effect. If that card were played on turn 5 or later, it would be removed from the game, but it is not turn 5 or later. All right. How am I doing? 30 minutes and we're almost done with the first turn. See what I mean? If you know the rules, the bot system really flies. So we move over to the French. They reveal Secret Treaty. A great card, but bots never play response cards. I believe the French have already industrialized. They have. So let's go through the priority. It's not their home card. They don't have any rebels. This is not a card they play. They roll a die. They are currently pacifying a space, so they're not going to get a -1 modifier because they're currently pacifying in Algeria. So let's roll. They rolled a 4. They're going to build armies. Okay. So there's an automatic priority 2 action. Unless the bot rolled a 5 or a 6, it will spend 1 CP to pacify a space if able. And there's a special, bots that attempt to pacify a space with a pacification of greater than or equal to 1 always succeed. Remember, bots cheat. So the pacification value is 0, so that's not going to automatically succeed. But the bots do get a +1 because the Zouaves are great at pacifying. They need to roll a 10 or higher on 2 dice, +1. A 10, they get it. They don't even need the special thing. We delete this. Algeria is now controlled by the French, and we increase their colonial keys by another one. The French are having a very strong turn 1. But the French still have 2 more points to spend because they had played a 3 CP card. And remember, they rolled a 4. So they build armies standing before reserve. They are at their peacetime manpower limit, so they are going to build a reserve army and place it in their reserve army's holding box. Their reserve army holding box is equal to their limit, is equal to their manpower, their industry, whichever is lower. Their industry is 1, manpower is 4. It is equal to 1. All right, that's the French turn. I hope I'm not going too fast. I think I'm explaining things well. Play does really flow this quickly when you know the rules and with the bot system. The Austrians are up. They're going to play French intervention. So this is a 1-point card. The Austrians, again, this is not, they don't have any rebels. It's not a home card. This is not a card they're automatically play. I believe they already have a card in industry. They do. So they're going to roll a die. They're +1 because they're always +1. They're going to use this card for the event, and they're going to help out the French. So the French immediately places an EF marker in an uncontrolled space. They immediately make a pacification roll in that space. Wow. Great card for the French, and they're already having a good turn. So this is a special thing. The French can actually target Mexico or Indochina with this. So when you would roll a die for the French, here, really, you should roll based on their diplomatic interest table. And we use the submaps here. So in a 1 to 4, they go to Africa, and a 5 to 6, they go to Japan or the Pacific. So let's roll a die. They're going to Africa. Now, we could roll a die to see which space they put it in. But how about this? We'll roll a die to see if it's either Morocco or a place in mainland Africa. So high, it'll be Morocco. It is Morocco. So the French will just clone this influence marker. Oh, I flipped to control and action. We'll clone this influence marker and move it to Morocco. Then, per the card, they immediately place a EF there for free, and they make a pacification marker. This is a 4 CP value action in a one CP card. This is a very good action for the French. They immediately roll. Their pacification value is 0 because they start at 0. Pacifying naval bases start at 2 because they're easier to pacify. And the French roll 2 dice plus 0, a 6. They do not succeed. They increase their pacification level by 1. But the French will automatically pacify that next impulse. Good turn for the French. Everybody's helping out the French. Wow. Okay. Over to the Russians. The Russians will reveal their home card. Now, the Russians roll a die to see what they do on their home card. And they might attack the Ottomans. So let's see. So, they roll a die on a 1, 2, or 3. They're going to play Russo-Turkish War. Otherwise, they play God Save the Tsar. But they can't play Russo-Turkish War if the Ottomans and the Russians already have a truce. Here we go. 1d6. They rolled a 6, so they play God Save the Tsar. So we would discard this card. Let's switch over to the Russians and draw God Save the Tsar so we can show you what it is. And draw a home card. God Save the Tsar. Also, Kevin added some musical features. So it's just fun. I hope you can hear that. I don't know if you can. So, this... I can't even contain myself. Thank you, Kevin. There are other songs as well. Just saying, it's pretty great. So, for home cards. So, there are 2 options for this event because they're both shaded. So, they'll either choose the top option or the bottom option. Well, high, they'll choose the top option. They choose the bottom option. So, they're going to attempt to complete the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Risky on turn 1, for the record. But if you do it, it's a huge deal. So, first, they increase their stability by 1. Then, they roll a die. If the result is less than or equal to the current turn, they complete the railroad. Let's see. They need a 1. They got it! Wow! This Russian bot clearly knows what it's doing. We got to play the song again. I mean, I feel like it. I hope you can hear it. So this is a big deal for the Russians on this turn. Let's retire. If we complete the Trans-Siberian Railroad, that means the Russians are gaining +1 card every turn, and they immediately increase their keys by 2, up to 14. And that is explained up here. So see, they increase their keys by 2. Additionally, they can now use the Trans-Siberian Railroad for rail actions during wartime. That's a great, great first turn for the Russians, just saying. They might be having a better first turn than the French. Over to the Ottomans. The Ottomans will flip over siege guns. The Ottomans do not have any priority 1 actions, so they will roll a die. They roll a 3. They're going to build armies. Standing always go before reserve, and the Ottomans just so happen, I did not mean to close that. That was a mistake. The Ottomans just so happen to have 2 reduced armies, which they will flip to full strength. Let me get that back up and running. Okay, and history. All right, there we go. This is more useful. I need this. All right, on the bright side, it's over to me. Oh, I forgot to play a card. So this is my mistake. I'm rushing through things. It's easier when you have a card in your hand. But I would have played Indian Ocean arms race when the French tried to pacify Morocco. But you know what? I'm going to pass and hold this card. This card represents arms trading and supplying insurgents with rifles to fight off pacifying powers. And notice the Boers up top with all of their Mausers. There were more Mausers than Boers in South Africa during the Boer Wars, by I think a ratio of like 5-1. It was kind of insane. All right. So I'm going to pass. You can pass if you have one card in your hand, and that one card isn't your home card and is not a mandatory event. The British can pass with 2 cards in their hand, but bots never pass. The British are going to play Sick Man of Europe, and they're going to play this for a priority 1 action. They're going to attack rebels. So the British are going to be +2 in this battle. The Sepoys, they're going to be +1. The Sepoys are 2. When there's a rebelling army, units can be in the same space as it. Normally, that's not the case. The British have 1 from the Indian Army, but 2 from the Indian Army, -1 for India being unstable. And they have +2 from British Expeditionary Force. So they have a total of 3 to 2. So the British are +1. We'll roll the British first. A 6 to 6. So it's not the best result for the British, but it is a 1-1, and the attacker wins ties. The Sepoys can't retreat, so they are eliminated, and this goes away. But the British did take a loss, so we flip this army to reduced. I realize I'm going too fast, so I'm going to actually break that down. This one indicates that the attacker took a loss, and this one indicates that the defender took a loss. The asterisks don't apply because we haven't played hydraulic recoil yet, which just makes the game more deadly. All right, so the British did that. The British will then go to excess CPs because they don't jump immediately into priority 2. They jump immediately into excess. So the first thing they will do is build armies. They can flip this Indian army to full strength. We can also actually at this point increase the British keys up to 7. Good for them. India does not flip to stable yet. They have to play one of their home cards to do that. And they have 1 more CP, which they will spend on the BM pit, which is the bot major power influence table. So you roll 2 dice. The first die determines what power they're influencing, and the second die will determine what direction. So the first die, they're influencing themselves, and they want to go into the triple alliance. So if we go to the influence table, we find their triple alliance marker, which is below their triple entente, and increase by 1. This means at the end of the turn, or after a certain card is played, we'll roll dice to see if the British shift alliances. Currently, the rolls will be even, but nonetheless, they have a chance to shift. Notice everyone else at 1 neutral influence isn't going to shift because you don't roll a die for something that's in the 0 space, which is like up here with all these markers. Okay, so the British bot is making moves. That was 3 points. We'll discard Sick Man of Europe. All right, over to the French. The French reveal City of Light, which is their home card, but they might play their other card. So the French roll a die on the 1. They play Armes Citoyen. I know I said that wrong. I apologize. Otherwise, they play City of Light, so let's roll a die. They do roll a 1, so they would play Armes Citoyen. So because this is an example of play, and because I've already showed you how wars work, I'm actually going to retcon that and say they didn't roll a 1, mostly because I want this video to be shorter. But just so you know what that card looks like, if we retire and go to France, I can't believe the game isn't cooperating and isn't doing what I want it to do. We'll see that the France gains 2 reserve army steps, and then they get to attack essentially with this card. And if they win, they get an extra stability, and it's also a war of conquest, which would be costly for them. So it's not horrible to do on turn 1, but this is essentially the French attack card. But again, I think it's better to play City of Light here, also for the demonstration. So the French will first gain 1 stability. Stability. Power display, gain 1 stability. Then they get 3 CP to spend, but they roll a die, and if the result is less than or equal to the current turn, they gain 1 City of Light point. Before rolling, they can forgo XCP to apply a negative X modifier to the die roll. So currently they need a 1, but they can sacrifice CP to essentially they can sacrifice CP to make that die roll easier. On a 4, 5, or 6, they will sacrifice CP. They will. How many? So 1, 2, they'll sacrifice 1, 3, 4, 2, and 5, 6, 3. They're going to sacrifice 2 CP. So they need a 3 or under to get a City of Light point. Let's see if it was worth it for the bot. It was not! They needed 1 more. But they have 1 CP to spend. If we go to their priority actions, again here, they have no main priority. They're just going to do an automatic tier 2, and they would pacify here, and it would be an automatic success, except I'm going to jump in and play Indian Ocean Arms Trade. So before they roll, I reduce this pacification level by 1. I also get to discard a card. I am supplying guns to the Moroccans. And I get to draw a card. Assassination! Ooh, fun one. Fun one. Glad I got a fun one. But the French will roll. They need a 10. They get a 9! Oh, they would have succeeded even not. Oh, the French bot shakes their fist at me. Okay. That's the French turn. Over to the Austrians. They will play Second Opium War. They don't have any priority 1 actions. They will just play for a priority 2. I just want to check if everybody is industrialized. Sometimes I forget that with bots because I'm going fast, but everybody has. They roll a die. They are +1 always. Let's see if they give another good event to the French. They do not. They roll a 3, so they're going to build an army. The Austrians are always +1. So they discard Second Opium War, and they will build 1 step of a reserve army because it costs 1 CP per step. Reserve army goes to here, flip to reduced. That is the Austrian turn. Okay. Over to the Russians. Russians will play International Conference, another 4-point card. They never play them for the events, so let's roll to see what they do. They don't have any priority 1 actions. They are going to... They can't play it for its event. So first they have an automatic 1. Well, sorry, unless a 5 or a 6 is rolled, they're automatically. So they're not going to do that, so they'll go to excess CP. So they're basically going to spend 2 to build armies. They're going to flip this to full strength and flip this to full strength. And then they're going to spend 2 on the diplomatic interest table, the major power influence table. So notice here, neutral blots that influence another player to join an alliance will split their influence between themselves and that player. So if we roll a different player here, the Russian bot is actually going to influence themselves and that other player. So let's roll. They're influencing the British and themselves. In which direction? The second die. Towards the Triple Alliance. Bots making smart moves. Look at that. So the British will go up 1 influence, and the Russians will go up 1 influence for the Triple Alliance. The Russians and the British trying to cut deals, apparently. Bot deals. Who knows? All right, by the way, the bots never pass, which is why I haven't been taking that into account. Over the Ottomans, they play Chinese intervention. Let's see it. Let's roll to see what they play it for. They have no priority 1 actions. 2, they will play it for, they are actually going to play this to gain, essentially they're going to try to gain influence in Asia or Africa. So they're going to go off and try to do imperialism, essentially. So where are they going to place that? We roll a die, either the Great Game or Africa. They're going to place it in the Great Game. So essentially the closest spot they can get to is Kuwait, but they can also do Baluchistan. So 1, 2, 3 Kuwait, 4, 5, 6 Baluchistan. They are going to place it in Kuwait. Where are my... This will allow the Ottomans essentially to try to pacify that in a future turn. Now, step 2 would be to move an EF to that space. Sorry, wrong page. But they can't move one, and they can't build. They don't have any, and they can't build one because they don't have enough CP to build one. So instead, they'll go to excess CP. They don't have any more armies they can build, so they're also going to spend their last CP on the major power influence table. So who are they influencing? The British, and they're influencing them towards the Triple Alliance. I think the British are really going to join the Triple Alliance in this game. All right. That is the Ottoman turn. Did I discard their card? I think I did. All right. All right, over to me. I cannot pass. I have to play Assassination. So we increase world tension by 1, and then I choose a player. That player must either randomly discard a card or decrease their stability by 1. I think the French are doing too well. Forgot to discard City of Light. I'm going to choose them. They cannot discard a card because they're out of cards, so they must decrease their stability by 1. The French president was assassinated. Of course, this card was inspired by the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, but there were several assassinations, including the Empress of Austria at one point. The Emperor of Russia got assassinated. There were several other assassination attempts, so there were many of these. We also increased world tension by 1, so the world is getting more tense because the French president, or at this point, it's not a president, it's the Second French Empire. Someone killed Napoleon III's son. Oh no! This card is discarded. But I still get 2 points to spend because it was a mandatory event. So, I have 2 points to spend. What do I want to spend it on? I would have passed, but with 2 points to spend, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this British diplomacy marker from Belgium and then place my own diplomacy marker there to attempt to essentially gain an alliance with Belgium in the future. This will be important because, 1, it gives me 2 extra armies and another road into France without violating Belgium's neutrality this time. But also, if I control both of them, I get the Low Countries flashpoint, which will give me +1/2 card. You always round up in IE, so that's 1 full card, making moves in the Low Countries. All right, that is my turn. Now notice, you can only do this once per impulse, and you can also only do remove once per impulse. But for 2, you can remove in place. Okay. Over to the British. The British will play mobilization. They don't have any priority 1 actions. They've defeated the rebels, so they are going to roll a die. They're always -1, and they're going to attempt to pacify a space. However, they don't have any current pacifying spaces, so they're going to dump this into the bot major power influence table. So let's roll a die. Oh, sorry, no. That's my mistake. The bots are going to... They're going to place an influence marker. I think I made a mistake with the Ottomans, and I think I rolled a 2 and thought they rolled a 1, which is my mistake. I apologize. Essentially, they would have placed an influence marker into a diplomacy marker into Egypt, but nonetheless, let's keep going. They are going to play the British are going to place an influence marker, so let's go down here to our diplomatic interest table. So the British have a lot of options. Let's roll a die. They get a 6. They're going to the Pacific. The British trying to expand their influence in the Pacific. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, they're going to try to colonize New Guinea. But first, they must place an influence marker there. Not much else they can do with that card. Okay. That's the British turn. Over to the French. The French pass. The Austrians pass. The Russians pass. The Ottomans will play Eastern Orthodoxy. They don't have any priority 1 actions. They will roll a die. They get a 2. Well, this time, they'll get to do the thing anyway. So, if we roll a 2, we check here. We see that they gain an alliance if able, then place or remove a diplomacy marker in that section. So they only need 2 CP to gain an alliance with a minor power, which is important. So if we look at their interest table, and they played a 3, so if they can gain an alliance with 8, if able, they can. They can place an influence marker and then gain an alliance for 3, because bots cheat. They only need to spend 2 to gain an alliance. Notice here we have an asterisk for the Ottomans. They will always ally with Egypt if able. Otherwise, they're influencing the Balkans. Okay? So with 3, the Egyptians will immediately jump to an ally marker in Egypt. So 1 for the diplomacy marker and then 2 for the ally because bots cheat. We don't need an ally marker in both Sinai and the Great Sand Sea. If we just have this in Egypt, that applies to both of those spaces. Okay, Good play for the Ottomans. Allying Egypt is good for them, especially when the Suez Canal is built, because then that becomes a flashpoint. That's the Ottomans. It's back to me. I don't have any cards, and it's back to the British. Their home card is revealed. We see here that they always play Sun Never Sets, except they have a chance to play Balance of Power if a country declares war. So Sun Never Sets. Let's see. Are they going to do the top action or the bottom action? 1, 2, 3, they do the top action. 4, 5, 6, they do the bottom action. 3, they're doing the top action. India will remain unstable. So they will gain 1 stability. This Indian stability marker shouldn't be here, but nonetheless, that's a mistake in the vassal module. We'll just put this on 0 for now. It is quite unstable nonetheless. So they get to build a squadron. They can't build dreadnoughts because you can't build dreadnoughts until the dreadnought card has been played, and they have to build a squadron in Europe. So they will take 1 squadron from their power display, and they will build it in London. The bot priorities are essentially to always build units in one space, and then they'll move them around later. Then the British get 2 CP on expeditionary force pacification and or naval movement actions. Naval movement won't really help them, but if they pick up this EF and move it to the New Guinea, they can immediately pacify there. And when you're pacifying a naval base, it starts at pacification level 2. Okay. So the British will be +2 for this pacification marker. They automatically succeed because they are a bot pacifying a space and it's greater than or equal to 1. So we immediately flip this marker to control, which will increase British power projection by 1 because now they have a naval base in the South and Central Pacific. They already have the port from Australia and New Zealand. There we go. All right. The British are out of control. Everyone is out of cards. We just finished a turn in less than an hour with explaining things, which is pretty impressive. Keep in mind, we also have to go through the end phase. So technically it's not less than an hour. But I think I did pretty good. And to celebrate, let's play Scotland the Brave. It will be really funny if none of you can hear this. I think Kevin made this one go on long on purpose. Thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate it. I love that. I think it's the best thing. Okay. So this card would be discarded because it only lasts for the turn. Too bad I didn't get to use it. Thanks for the Ottomans for playing it though. And now let's go to the end phase breakdown. So we go to the end phase. The first thing, militarism. Each power gains 1 step or prevents a fort from degrading. So I could gain a step. However, I'm at maximum steps because my reserve army limit is only 1 at this point, so I can't do that. The British can't gain any steps because all their armies are at full strength. The French can't gain any steps, but they can prevent their fort in Champagne from degrading. The Austrians will gain a step. They always prioritize gaining steps, but they will lose their quadrilateral fortresses in Lombardy. The Russians are at max strength, but they get to save a fort. They'll always prioritize saving a fort in their capital. So in this case, they'll save the fort in St. Petersburg. And the Ottomans can't do anything. Their reserve army limit is 0 because their industry is at 0. Notice the Russian industry is also at 0, but they also get +1, whatever their reserve army limit is equal to their manpower industry, whichever is lower, +1. Russian steamroller. You gotta love it. Okay. So that's that step. Moving on to degrade forts. We already did that, I believe. Verdun was saved, and so was the fortress in St. Petersburg. You can never prevent a level 3 fort from degrading, by the way. Minor power build step. So we check the minor powers box. Can these people build armies? Hanover actually can't build an army. Also, Hanover is actually eliminated from the game because one special ability we have essentially is when we take control of a space, it becomes a permanent home space for us, and that minor power ceases to exist, which is important. The Danes will build their army in Denmark. The Tuscans will build an army in Tuscany. And these three Balkan powers are not independent, so they will not build an army step. Naples will build an army step and flip this to full strength, as will the Greeks. Oh, I made a mistake. The Romanians are in fact independent, so they will build one army step in Romania. Okay. Naval units go to port. All naval units are already in port. Set manpower. This applies to me because I gained more keys, so my manpower is now 3. Huzzah. Industrialize. Let's go in turn order. I have a +2. I need a 5. Rolling a die. Only a 4. Oh, that hurts. We flip this to an auto-industrial marker. This means that if I play a 1 or a 2 card, or sorry, if I play any card into industry next turn, I will automatically industrialize, which is good. I don't even need to roll, but I do need to play a card. Over to the British, they are +3, but they're also +1 because they dominate power projection. So they're actually +4. And with a die roll like that, it doesn't matter what they roll. Even if they roll a 1, they're going to get to 5. They increase their industry by 1. They're now drawing 4 cards from industry next turn. Power projection is pretty reliable. The French. The French played a 2 card. They're also +2. They roll a 1. They also do not industrialize. Wow, bad industrialization rolls. The Austrians are only +1. They need a 4. And they get it. Oh, those pesky Austrians. I can't believe they got it. They are now at industry 2. The Russians are +3. They need a 6, remember, because they're an agrarian society. They fail even with their big +3. They will get an auto industry marker. Let's see what the Ottomans do. They're +2. They need a 6 as well. They succeed. The Sepoy Mutiny card is discarded and removed from the game. And the Ottomans have now the same level of industry as Germany. Great. Okay. We progress truces. There are no truces. Essentially, when you fight a major power, you can get a 2-turn truce, and then when you progress it, it goes to 1 turn. And if it's at 1 turn, you then return it. That doesn't happen. Progressive Wars of Independence. If the Sepoys had survived, we would flip that marker to a +1 side. If you get to the end of a turn and a marker is already on its +1 side, that space gains independence, which is a big deal. Okay. Then alliance resolution step. So we go to our alliance track. We look at the power with the most combined influence. The British have a total of 4, so they're going first. They get +1 for their neutral roll and +3 for their triple alliance roll. We can just math that out to a +2 for the triple alliance. So first for the neutral, they rolled a 6. Oh no. Triple alliance, they rolled a 5. +2 to 7. That means the British will shift into the triple alliance. And that means that because they ended the alliance resolution step in the triple alliance, their triple alliance influence will remain at 1. Ooh. Will the Russians shift into the triple alliance? Both are at 1, so there's no modifiers. Triple alliance first, a 5. Neutral, a 1. They shift into the triple alliance as well. So the Russians and the British are already scheming together and possibly planning on an early Great War. The more players are in an alliance, the more likely the Great War is to trigger. All right, that is the alliance resolution step. Notice everyone else is just at 1 neutral influence, so they don't move. Everybody stays there. All that play on the alliance influence track did pan out. For the record, if there's a tie, the player gets to decide where they shift into. And if it's a bot, you would roll a die. Okay. That's the alliance resolution step. Over to drawing NGs. This is fun. So now we draw objectives. This is the end of turn 1, so we would draw an objective. Oh, wait, I forgot to decrease world tension by 1. That's important. All of a sudden, no one cares that Napoleon III's son got shot. Oh, well. Okay. So I'm the only one who needs to draw NGs because bots only draw NGs at the end of the game. They cheat in other ways too. So I draw 3. 1, 2, 3. So these are my choices. I can choose stability to have the highest stability at the end of the game. Look to Paris to have the most... Oh, sorry. What am I talking about? I'm not the French. See, I'm already getting confused. I think I'm the French. What's even going on? I'm the Germans! Now, actually, the Germans have a special ability. And their special ability is Blood and Iron. During the end phase of turn 1, instead of drawing NGs, Prussia may search their NG deck for Unification. If they do, they play this card face up. Unification is Germany's big 4-point card. Oftentimes players take this, and I would take this, but just to demonstrate how the drawing 3 cards works, I'm going to do that instead. So 1, 2, 3. Look at that! I drew Unification anyway. So I choose one of these, and I keep it secret for the game. So I would, in this case, choose Unification, but this one, if I control the most flash points, I get points. This one isn't bad. I have a good chance of controlling Germany, and I have a good chance of controlling Belgium, and controlling 2 flash points is a big deal. Okay? Stability is a good one, but it's risky. It's easy to lose stability. So you could be in first place, and then drop 1, and then you're in trouble. So in this case, I would take Unification, but, so yeah, and I would discard both of these cards back to the NG deck. At any point in the game, you can look at your NG deck to see what cards are in there. You can't ask to see another player's NG deck, but always reshuffle it. Also, there's a list of NGs in the back of the playbook, so you can look at what other players might be trying to go for. Okay. We advance the turn marker, and that is the end of the turn. How did I do? 1 hour and basically 7 minutes. I would like to point that out. For this game, there's a lot of rules in this game, and granted, I know the rules. I did make it after all. There's a lot of rules, but nonetheless, I was able to play this game 1 full turn with bots, 5 bots, in basically an hour. And that's saying something, because it could have been under an hour if I had rushed through the war between Hanover and Schleswig-Holstein. But then again, I would have had to go through the war with the French attacking somebody if I was actually playing by the rules and not just for the purposes of the demonstration. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough of a turn. I hope you learned something. Forgive the minor mistakes on Vassal, and we'll get those cleared up. And I hope that if you purchase a copy, that you really enjoy it. It really is a great 6-player game or any point game. The Great War can be really fun, and the secret victory conditions, in terms of you don't know how many points I have, and I don't know how many points you have, really adds a lot of unique tension to the game and makes it not just a jump on the leader. Okay, I'm going to end now before I reach 1 hour and 10 minutes and get it under 1 hour 10 minutes. I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for watching.